What's up, guys? This is the nation's best natty show with the Gametime Guru podcast, brought to you by the NIL Marketplace Showcase going on July 7th through the 9th in Indianapolis, Indiana at the Hyatt Regency. I'm going to be bringing on Mike Zanetti. We're going to be chatting about college football. We're starting this up again this season. We did it last year, and we're doing it again. So I'm really excited to bring this to you. Stay tuned because this is the Gametime Guru. So,
what time is it? Game time!
This is the Gametime Guru podcast, where I interview sports figures from all over the world to help deliver a panoramic view on sports. So whether you're a former athlete, one of the crazies, or simply a casual sports fan, this is the perfect show for you as we peel back the curtains and learn from our guests every single week. I'm your host, Shane Larson, and I'm helping you see sports through a different lens. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Gametime Guru podcast. And joining me is my guy, Mike Zanetti. And we're going to be chatting. This is the nation's best natty, the nation's best natty show. And it's sponsored by the NIL Marketplace. It's the NIL Marketplace Showcase that's going to be happening July 7th through the 9th at the Hyatt Regency in Indianapolis, Indiana. Today, Mike and I are going to be going through the college football rundown. You guys will probably hear from us a couple of times in the next few months as we get ready for the end of college football season going into the college football playoff. This is the exciting part of the year. We introduced this last year here on the platform, and now I get to be blessed by Mike's presence here and do it again. And so, Mike, first off, thanks for joining the show, man. Excited to have you back on here.
Of course. Yeah. I mean, it's always a blast to, chalk it up with Shane. Last year was a blast, going in the playoffs and there's just so much to shake up this year.
Yeah, man. And this is what I was saying before we started even recording for those who are listening here is just, I don't get a lot of this where I get to actually just chat about the landscape of college football. So super stoked to be able to do it right now. If we look, Mike, at the college football playoff rankings as they stand today, going into this weekend, 1 through 12. There's a couple of teams here, and I want to get your thoughts on this. I mean, obviously, you've got Ohio State still at number 1. There's a discussion between Ohio State and Indiana, who should be number 1, who should be number 2, and even Texas A&M, who should be number 1, 2, 3, based on strength of schedule, based on whatever. And the conversations that I keep hearing are, Ohio State is the defending national champion, so until they've been proven otherwise, that's why they get the benefit of the doubt. Part of me is like, man, I don't know. Even as a Buckeyes fan, I'm like, listen, it's a different year, right? Like, it's a different year. It's not their fault the schedule was what it was. I mean, they had Texas to begin the year that no one knew that Texas was going to kind of be a little bit more on the fringe there. But they just beat who they have on the schedule. But talk to me about your thoughts on this. Who truly out of those top 3, what should the rankings be 1, 2, 3 with Ohio State, Indiana, and Texas A&M?
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting for me because I'm not, no offense to your Buckeyes, I'm not a big believer in them because of their schedule. They really haven't played anyone. And to me, I know, I just moved to Indiana, but I mean, the Hoosiers fans, they're starting to roll on me. I mean, just watching them play, they've had more impressive wins. Yes, they had a close call against Penn State, but a win is a win. A lot of teams, they get those kinds of games, but it's like looking at what Indiana has done with Fernando Mendoza, with Curt Cignetti, and being able to just turn around that team in a couple of years. I mean, that is been incredible. So I think Indiana really deserves the nod over Ohio State just because they've kind of proved to have bigger wins. And you mentioned last year, it's a totally new year. This is not the same Ohio State team from last year with their dominant defense. Yes, granted, it's still very good. Basically an NFL defense under Matt Patricia, but you still got Julian Sain, you still got Jeremiah Smith. So they're definitely not out of the competition by any means. Now, as for Texas A&M, I think they've had a couple of close calls. They can easily be further down if they lost a couple of those games. They beat Notre Dame barely. There's been a couple wins where they've kind of gotten by the skin of their teeth. And I don't know if I'm ready to say they are the real deal yet. I mean, they got that good defense. I mean, it's just really the run game has been working out. But again, you have those close calls, 41-40 over Notre Dame. Even Arkansas, close call, 45-42. South Carolina, they came back in the second half, 31-30. So those are all the wins I'm going to say. But, I mean, I'm not feeling the greatest about A&M. As for Indiana and Ohio State, don't mind whoever's, ranking each over them. But I would argue Indiana has the nod over Ohio State.
I respect that. I really do respect that. One of the things that I got to give credit to Indiana for is their efficiency. The reason teams get so frustrated with Indiana is just how efficient they are. They'll dink and dunk it if they have to. just get a couple yards here. They take the right play. They make the right play. They take the right pass. They take, they get their yards in chunks and they get their first downs and they keep the other team's defense on the field and they just march down the field. Like they're just very efficient. And that's a frustrating, they're not flashy, but they're efficient. And it's kind of cool to watch. It's like they have it down and they have a swagger about them. Zanetti's done a really good job with getting them to have a little swag and they kind of know what they are now. It's no longer a secret that Indiana's good. They had that last year and the year before that where it's like, well, are they really? Now they know that they're good. And so they have a swag about them. So I'm kind of excited for them. It's interesting. I actually will echo what you said about A&M. I think A&M is as talented as anybody. However, those close games have shown me a couple things. When they derail, they look pretty bad during the bad spurts. And that's what I look at teams sometimes, Mike, is I'm like, what do they look like when they're playing poorly? Because you can't always have a great game every game. Right. Man, even that first half of South Carolina, yes, the second half they went off, but man, that first half was bad. Like they looked awful. It wasn't just like, oh man, they're in a rut. No, they looked atrocious. And so they've had a couple of those moments. And so that's where I'm wondering, like, will it come back to bite them here near the end of the season? So I probably would echo what you say right there. I am looking forward to seeing what Ohio State does. I actually love their scheme on defense. I think Patricia's been a huge lift for them as far as what he's schematically putting in place for them on the defensive front. Yeah. But obviously two Heisman candidates with Sayin and Smith potentially being Heisman candidates of like just playing at a high level on the offensive side of the ball. But like, there are some gaps there in Ohio State in their schemes too. People don't realize I'm still worried about them being able to run the ball. And now that it's cold weather in the Midwest, let's see if they can get through Michigan in 2 weeks. It's going to be a little bit, you got to run the ball in the cold weather. And I don't think Ohio State's proven to be the best, most efficient running team right now. So looking down though, here's another question that I wanted to bring up is, so the parity in college football, there's a couple of teams here that I feel could compete. And I want to ask you, like, who do you think if the playoffs started today, obviously there's a lot that's going to change in the next couple of weeks. There's a lot of 2-loss teams that are on the fringe. Like, they cannot afford a loss and there's still conference championships to be played. But of the teams that are still sitting here today, do you have any competitors that you think could truly compete given the right matchup in the college football playoff for a championship?
I really like Indiana. I feel like in terms of that sleeper team that I don't think is getting the recognition for, at least for the 12-team playoffs, Vanderbilt. I mean, Diego Pavia has kind of led that team to be kind of a Heisman candidate in the driver's seat, 8-2, a team that probably shocked a lot of people this year. They're ranked 14th in the college football rankings. Now, granted, the AP poll has them at number 12, but I think, if they win out the rest of the season, there's a chance they could sneak in there. I know BYU's there, even Utah, even that controversial thing. BYU's got the tiebreaker over them, but I think Vandy could be sneaky if they get into the playoff picture.
Ooh, that's an interesting one. I would love to see them in there. I want to see Pavia in the playoff. It's just like you want to see exciting players to play. So I'm with you on that. I'm curious to see how that shakes out. I will say this from my side, looking at it, and I know people are going to like, I just am looking at who's currently in there right now. I think Oregon, if given, I know they haven't always looked perfect, but I actually think that they match up really well. They're kind of a sleeper team that's just kind of skidding by. They had a close game against Penn State, and I feel like that was one of those games that could have could make or break a season. And they got past it. They obviously lost to Indiana, but they've been playing pretty good football for the most part. I like their quarterback. I do think that they cause tough matchups for certain programs, so I just kind of keeping an eye on them. But I wonder about Ole Miss. I'm just wondering about Ole Miss and seeing like what could happen with that program. I don't know. There's other teams that I think I'm a Buckeyes fan. I want Ohio State to win it. I think Indiana's phenomenal. But as far as like a team that has a defense and athletes that can actually compete and contend for a championship, I'm like wondering, could they get over the hump? So that's going to be an interesting one for us too. I'm just curious to see what happens. But you mentioned, and again, I was going to say this up until last week. I mean, Alabama was even one on my mind. I'm like, dude, they're actually playing really good football right now. I thought they could be a contender. And then, I mean, not that they couldn't. Anybody can win on any given day. And like we said last year, Ohio State, 2 losses, goes into the playoff, and they just go on a historic run. So it's like anybody can win. But I want to know what happens with Utah and BYU. So here's the debacle, right? For those who are listening, we're talking Utah, BYU, a lot to be done in the next 2 weeks. But let's just say BYU makes the conference championship. Let's say both Utah and BYU in the season like, let's just say BYU goes into the championship game and they lose to Texas Tech. If that's what ends up happening in the Big 12, Utah obviously wouldn't be playing in a conference championship. Who gets the nod to go in? Because if BYU were to lose, then that puts them like another loss on their record. But are you penalizing them for playing in a conference championship, or are we rewarding them for playing in a conference championship? And they have the head-to-head against Utah. But there are a lot of experts out there, in quotes, that are saying Utah would get that nod just because of the type of football they're playing. What do we think, Mike?
This is a tough one. I mean, I think, like you said, Utah deserves its credit for the type of football it's playing, but the Big 12 is really up for grabs. And I kind of want to go back to what you said about Ohio State running away with it last year. There's not really a team that I think is kind of just a powerhouse that's just like, oh, yeah, we know this team is like going to be, at the finish line. I mean, this is really a toss-up. And now that we've changed the playoffs to, now 12 team, 14, I don't know how many we're going to end up going to, but it's just, as far as who wins the Big 12, I mean, obviously it's probably going to come down to BYU, Texas Tech. But I mean, if BYU, one of those teams, loses one game, I mean, you saw a little slip up with Texas Tech losing that game to Arizona State. So it's like a lot of these games are close. And even BYU had a couple close calls against Arizona in overtime. So Texas Tech ended up walking away with it a couple weeks ago. BYU could not put up a fight. So it's like, I like BYU's defense. I don't know about their offense. So Texas Tech is definitely a team that probably takes it in my eyes, but it's like Utah could sneak. I feel like they're going to get robbed because I do believe they're the better team than BYU. They just couldn't beat them in the regular season. I do think they deserve to win that game looking at BYU, Utah. So it's like those three teams are all playoff teams in my eyes. There's a lot of talent there.
Dude, I'm curious to see what happens. Again, there's a lot of football to be played, but we're just talking as everybody knows, we're just talking as it stands right now. Well, here's a big game coming up this weekend, right? You were talking about the first four out. Well, you were talking about Vanderbilt, but they're one of the first four out of the current standings, right? Another team that's currently in the first four out would be USC. They're right behind Vandy. USC, there's also Miami at 13 currently. Now, USC plays Oregon this week. Big matchup. Obviously, it's going to be a big one. They play at Oregon November 22nd, and that's going to be a big one in Eugene, okay? USC and Oregon. Winner has the head-to-head. They would both have 2 losses at that point if USC were to win, right? So if USC were to win, they'd both have 2 losses. Do you think – I guess my question is there. I think Oregon's a sleeper team, but I also think USC has been playing pretty good football too. They have their moments. I'm thinking – man, if USC wins, they should be able to get the nod to get in there. Does that kick Oregon out of that potential in that side of things? What are your thoughts on what's going to happen with USC and Oregon in that matchup going into Eugene?
Oh, man, that's a good one. I feel like I have to echo what you say about Oregon because they can play. I mean, Dante Moore is a good quarterback. They did lose a tough one to Indiana, of course. They're the top team. But realistically, I don't think Oregon should be 7. I think they should be up there with a couple of the other teams that are there. And it's like, I am not a big fan of USC. I mean, I don't think there's a way possible they're going to be in that game against Oregon. I know it's at Oregon, right? So it's like a 3:30 game. It's going to be loud. And I don't know. I think they're going to get stomped on, probably like similar to the Pitt game that was ranked last week, to where it's like, we're going to see some teams that are ranked that no offense to USC and what they've been able to do this year. I don't think they're going to be ranked in a couple weeks, just because this is a game where Oregon might make a statement kind of game. And it's like, I don't know. That's just a feeling for me.
Like, to me, it feels like this is do or die for both teams. They both know the pressure's on. Who can handle the pressure? I actually will echo this. I actually think that USC has played good football, but I think Oregon is built for the moment. I think they're both well coached, but I think Oregon at home, this type of an environment, knowing what's against them. I mean, they've been pretty tested this year with a couple of games. Yeah, they lost to Indiana at home, but Indiana's good. I mean, you can't win every game. It's just the reality of it. So I am actually thinking that Oregon wins by 2 touchdowns. I think that that's what's going to ultimately end up happening given the circumstances. I think USC might play well. I think it could be a blowout. I could be wrong on this. We could both be wrong on this. but I definitely think that we might see something there this weekend where it's like, okay, now we see why Oregon was in the top 10 and USC was not. You start to see the separation between the good and the great teams. And I think we're going to probably see that with, USC is a good team. I don't think they're a great team. And I don't know how many are actual elite teams. There might be 2 or 3 of them, but there's not a lot. So like you said, there's not a ton of separation there.
I will say there's a lot of teams on the border, right, of the top 25. And that was kind of what I was saying with Pitt last week. I'm pretty sure they were like 22 and Notre Dame just ran all over them with Jeremiah Love. So it's like, you see the big difference between the really high top elite teams, if Oregon is that kind of team that can pull away, and your kind of middle of the pack teams that have been playing good football with good records, but can they go to the top level and beat that top team in the standings? So it's tough.
Man, it's going to be interesting talking about this in about 2 weeks after like everything goes down. As we get, you and I will talk probably before the conference championships begin, and kind of we'll have a better understanding of like who's going to be where, what's shaking out. There could be some big upsets that happen. Rivalry weeks are always big. You never know.
Oh yeah.
I want to know what your thoughts are. Okay. Alabama and Auburn. Okay. So here's one. Auburn, this whole season's been in some close games.
Mm-hmm.
Big time close games. Alabama is on that, like the verge of like, can they make a statement? Can they keep going? Can they make it into the playoff and just give themselves a chance? I have this feeling, man, like there's a weird energy. Auburn, could they finally get over the hump just to finish off the season and ruin somebody else's season? Or does Alabama make it into the playoff? What do you think on that one?
I could see it going both ways. I just feel like the better team is Alabama. Ty Simpson's been playing great football. They kind of lost a heartbreaker last week. So I don't know. I mean, to end the season on Auburn, it's going to be tough. It's at Auburn. So it's like, that's going to be a tough one, no doubt. But their 2 losses. Oklahoma's a tough team. I really think Auburn, again, it's a rivalry week, so anything could happen. But Auburn can really give them a run for their money. But in the end, I think Alabama's going to prevail. It might not look pretty, but they're still going to win.
Man, I think, if I were going to pick an upset, if you want to call it an upset, there's a lot of games like Michigan, Ohio State's going to be a big one in a couple weeks, assuming that they both get there, unscathed. We'll see what, there's still football to be played, but I think that Alabama-Auburn game, for some reason, there's something in my mind. I'm probably with you. I think the more realistic viewpoint is that, Alabama will pull away, that they're a good team, they're well coached, they're playing good football, they know what's at stake. But I just have that feeling like Auburn has nothing to lose. True. And they have been in so many games, and I'm like, I wonder if they play,
it's possible.
If they play the wrecker,
Yeah.
I want to ask one other question right now in regards to the group of 5. Okay. So we're talking about group of 5 teams. So last year, obviously, I'm a Boise State grad. Boise State goes in, gets destroyed by Penn State. They held in for the first 2.5 quarters, and then it just kind of pulled away. And, there's always that discussion. The conversation last year was, should they get a bye? They're giving group of 5 teams a spot, but should they get a bye is the question. And then now we're like, well, the group of 5 probably shouldn't get a bye. Yeah, it's tough, what do we do there? But what are your thoughts on the group of 5 situation for the teams that could be there this year?
I don't know. I mean, I feel like, I like putting them in there, but it's like, are they really going to make that? I understand why you extended the playoff picture, but it's like, I don't think any of those group of 5 teams are actually going to be able to not only upset, but go on a college run. And it's kind of like, we're trying to have this March Madness thing where it's like the 16 seed upsets the 1 seed. In football, you have to play almost perfect football for 4 quarters and you might still get beat. So it's like, you saw Boise State last year. They put up a fight against Penn State, but they couldn't get anything going on offense. So it's like, I don't know. I understand putting them in there, but it's like, man, I don't see it a way possible for it to be very competitive, unfortunately.
So let's talk about this in Tulane. Tulane's kind of like the discussion of like, who can they make a statement in this? So you don't think that like a Tulane currently standing right now could match up against a Texas Tech right now or anything, because they got to play perfect football for 4 quarters. And you don't see that happening with the current teams that are standing in the college football playoff bracket.
I as an underdog rooter myself, I want to believe it, but it's like Texas Tech, man. I mean, I would be shocked. I mean, anything can happen. Don't get me wrong. But I mean, like, realistically speaking, when we break it down, like, okay, does Tulane have a shot? I mean, obviously there's always a chance, but it's like, I don't know. I'm not feeling it. It's like you always want to believe in that, that team. Like, here's a better example. If anyone knows the March Madness run with a team back in my New Jersey, St. Peter's, they went on a historical March Madness run. And it's like, again, I want to believe it. I want to believe the hype behind it, but it's like, I don't see a Cinderella story. It's like, I don't know.
And what's funny about that, Mike, I've thought about it a lot this last year because we even saw it last year with the big schools. Those first couple playoff rounds, there were some blowouts, man. Like, because there is a separation between the elites and the greats. Like, there is separation. Then you have then there's great and good. And so, like, there was a ton of blowouts. I mean, you were like, oh shoot. Like, I mean, there were some big time blowouts that happened in round one. In that playoff until they got into like Ohio State was in a different type of world last year, but there was just a lot of blowouts amongst a lot of teams. And what I'm saying is like, imagine we want to give them a shot, but are we really doing what's best for college football? Maybe we are, maybe we're not. I don't know. But like, I'm kind of with you on that. And that's even as a Boise State guy who was like hoping for the school to do well. It's like at some point, they're just not going to, it's not bad. Basketball, you can go on a run. Basketball, you can go on a run because it's a little bit different. But football, I mean, there's 11 on 11, and there's 5-star athletes versus 3-star athletes. And at the end of the day, when you got a lot more of them and they're well coached at the same time, that's tough. It's tough to beat them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, got to win in the trenches.
I'm sure you will too. But man, that's the reality of the situation.
Yeah, got to win up front with those big men. I mean, when you, like you said, 5-star versus 3-star, it's like, I mean, enough said. Like, I think back to like the Georgia team with like Jordan Davis, Jalen Carter, like who is stopping those 300-pound defensive tackle? I mean, they're just going to plow through them. That's crazy.
Yeah, man. And I think you might see it in who knows, right? That maybe there's an upset. There's no, maybe in my world, like I can remember like the Boise State days, beating Georgia, beating Oklahoma, beating Virginia Tech, doing that type of thing, and beating TCU in the bowl games. And I was there for that. Like, but those were one game. So you might see one game potentially where it's an upset, like in the play. I just don't see them making any kind of run. So it's almost like, yeah, I mean, it's hard for me. It's hard for me to just give a group of 5, the best ranked group of 5 school spot when you have other teams that are sitting outside, like a Vanderbilt that could potentially lose out because of that type of thing. You know what I mean? So it's just hard to break that down.
It's just funny how they do the seeding as well, because it's like Ohio State, and I hate to do that to you, but like, they upset number 1 Oregon last year, right? Was that really an upset though? Because like we saw them play in the regular season. Like it was not like, if you look at it on paper, like, oh, number 8 versus number 1, like what a crazy game that it could be, like for Oregon to like walk away with it. But it's like, if you're talking about college football, it's like Texas beat Arizona State. Arizona State arguably shouldn't even had a bye last year. It's just like the way they did the seeding last year. Boise State number 3 with that bye. It's like, it's so controversial the way the poll has done it.
I agree with that. I agree with that a lot. I mean, Ohio State probably earned that 8th spot in the sense of dropping because of the 2 losses, no conference championship. It was unfortunate for them to get. It was unfortunate for Oregon because we all knew that Ohio State was talented enough if they could get their mental fortitude back on point. But yeah, their ranking system, and I hope that they'll change it. I hope that they'll make the shifts necessary this year. It sounds like they're in the process. The committee's trying to do that. But man, it was brutal last year. And even this year, if you're looking at it, like the current standings, like it could be another Ohio State, Oregon, or Notre Dame matchup round 2. You know what I mean? Like if it stayed as today, like, and that's a tough matchup too.
I mean, just think about last year. If it wasn't a first time, like 12-team playoff for Ohio State, they might have not even gotten in and had that legendary run. So that's kind of the craziness.
Yeah, exactly. It's kind of wild how things work, but that's also what makes it exciting.
Yeah.
As we wrap this one up, Mike, just kind of talking about it. Obviously, like we said, there's some big games coming up. We'll know more in a couple of weeks when you and I jump back on here and we get to talk more about the playoff itself, because that's when we know like what's locked in and stuff like that. So I want to talk about like Heisman contenders. Okay, like who do you see is, like, in your opinion, who's the best player in college football right now?
That's tough. I feel like most of the time it's got to go to the quarterbacks. I mean, that's kind of like last year we saw Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty. You want to see those skill position players have a shot at it. You mentioned Jeremiah Smith, who definitely has a real shot at it, but give me Fernando Mendoza. I mean, he just found himself kind of like nobody was really talking about him. He's kind of this underrated guy. And, here comes Indiana storming back for 2 years in a row. It's like, was it a 1-year wonder last year being in the top 10 for the first time in a long time? I got to give it to Indiana. I mean, they kind of deserve the credit there. I know Mendoza, he hasn't been perfect, but I mean, he's been pretty close to it. So it's like, obviously Julian Sands right there, even Marcel Reed with A&M, but it's like, it's going to be one of the quarterbacks for sure, in my opinion.
I appreciate that. I would say I would put Jeremiah Smith into the discussion just because of his ability, his game-changing ability, and what he's been able to do on the field. I will say this, though. I love Julian Sands as a quarterback and a Buckeyes fan. I think he's been playing phenomenal for his first year out there. I mean, he is super efficient. But Mendoza, man, like you mentioned something here that I'll echo, not a 1-year wonder. And usually when a quarterback is like, it's their first year, it's really hard for people to scheme against them because they don't know them. So they don't that's like when a backup quarterback comes in, all of a sudden they have success because they don't have a defensive scheme yet. But like once they get film, they usually can schematically just program the team around it. And then you don't have any shot at it if you're not good enough. But Mendoza, they have a full year and he's still out there slinging. And I think I'm right there with you. I would not be surprised to see him as it stands right now, hoisting the trophy. Like I think that's he's done enough to show that, and he's clutch. And that's another thing. Like that Penn State game, thing is, you got to throw out records at this point. Like Penn State has nothing to lose, and so those are scary teams to play against. Yeah. Nothing to lose. Still a tough game and a tough environment, and they have nothing to lose. And Indiana's undefeated, so it's every team's Super Bowls going on. So you're getting everybody's best every week, even if they're a crappy team. And off his back foot, getting hit, throws to the back of the end zone. Miraculous catch. I'll give the catch some credit too, but he stayed clutch, man. Even in a game that wasn't going his way the whole time, he stayed right in there, clutch, ice in his veins. So I'm right there with you with Mendoza, man.
Yeah, I mean, I know you credit the catch more than the throw, and I don't disagree, but Mendoza was under pressure. I mean, he got drilled. He got drilled after he threw that ball. But I mean, the call from Gus Johnson was just legendary. It's those are the moments all season you've waiting for, and then we're not even close. Well, now we're close, but the playoffs haven't even started yet, and it's just like it's been a hectic year already, and it's only going to get more shaken up as we talk about this more. And maybe A&M drops if they lose a game. I mean, these rankings can literally flip flop so easily, and it could just change in an instant.
I have a feeling that this week something's going to happen. Even last week, I was like, dude, there's some stuff that's about like so many teams are about to lose this, and it's going to shake everything. And it always does. It always comes to the last 2 weeks of football. Rankings get shook up, and that's when it makes it more exciting. So that's why I'm stoked to be talking about it with you, man. I really appreciate this week. We're going to be chatting in a couple of weeks as well. Just kind of keep the thing flowing as we go through the college football, the conference championships, and the college football playoffs. So, Mike, I appreciate you, man. For all those who are tuning in, again, this is the nation's best Natty Show, brought to you by the NIL Marketplace Showcase. That's happening July 7th through the 9th at the Hyatt Regency in Indianapolis, Indiana. If you guys want more information on that, check the link in the bio. And Mike, is there anything else before we sign off, man?
It's been fun, Shane. I got a feeling that maybe it's a hot take. I don't really think so. The Hoosiers, I'm getting this feeling in my chest. They might win it all. I don't know. Maybe it's just because I'm here in this town now that I don't know. Something's brewing in Indiana. First ever Natty coming up.
Ooh, Mike moves to Indiana, and all of a sudden now Hoosiers are winning the championship.
Powerhouse.
Let's go. All right, guys. Appreciate your time. We'll come to you next week with another one. Take care. Guys, thanks so much for listening to another episode of my show. Now, if you could go and do me a favor, head over to iTunes, give me 5 stars, and leave me a review. It would be greatly appreciated. Thanks, guys. Appreciate your support.